Richard, what was it like for you so many years after your successful TV show to watch the new version of the show? And what do you think are the major differences between the two?
Well, I guess first of all, I was not on the show in the first during the miniseries, so I was probably very biased, very prejudiced, and looking for all the reasons to hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So my first thought was they went out of their way to make it so different from the original, in that first 4-hour miniseries, and it looked like everybody was banging everybody. There just looked like tons of sex. So it looked like they were really trying to go for, making something really sexy and, kind of, again, trying to heat it up, and get people excited about that. But it also seemed very different from the original Battlestar because, we didn't really start on planet on Caprica, this show. So this was kind of taking place on Caprica. It kind of showed the foundations of that society before it crashed and burned due to the Cylons. So it was an area of Battlestar that I hadn't seen before. So it was like a different world.
Okay.
So it was hard to relate to it because as a Battlestar fan, I was looking for something to grab onto, right? And all the characters were different and very, so it was very hard for me to watch that 4-hour. But to be honest, I realized I was biased, prejudiced, and a little pissed off that not about me being on the show or not being on the show, but the fact that the studios had wanted to reimagine it as opposed to do a continuation, which so many fans wanted to see. So I think unfairly, as always, we sit there looking to shoot it down, right? So I think I'm going to go back now, 5 years later, 10 years later, and watch the first 4-hour and see what my thoughts and feelings are now when I'm not so biased or prejudiced, right? So, second of all, come episode 1, I fell in love with the show, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 1 is after they got attacked and they went into space and they're being chased by the Cylons. And that show was so powerful. So I kind of fell in love with it and really realized how much deeper, more edgy, more provocative, how much more they went into the core story of surviving a Holocaust and the challenges that humans had surviving that, and how they dealt on the day-to-day, basis, facing life and death circumstances. So, from that very episode 1, I related to it, and then I actually got cast in it to come on as a guest star in episode 3, and I was very, conflicted because I had put so much time and energy into promoting a revival and a continuation, and had pitched it, put together a trailer, developed a website. I'd done so much travel all over the country. So again, I was very conflicted, but I have to say, after meeting the producer, Ron Moore, meeting the writers, who I actually knew from acting class many, many, many years earlier. We had actually been all in the same acting class together, the Eric Morris Actors Workshop. It was kind of coming home. It was kind of a nice feeling of, wow, and I realized by that time that actually this show was going to be about something very powerful and exploring the deep, I think, life and death, profound story of Battlestar Galactica. So I actually got excited at that point because I realized back in the day my big frustration with the original show was they weren't going into the core story. They were afraid to be too edgy or too provocative, and they were kind of playing it very safe, and they were very, if you want to call it, afraid to alienate anybody. They were upset at Starbuck having a cigar back in the original. So I have to tell you that I actually fell in love with it, and I thought the show was brilliant. I thought the cast was brilliant. I thought the writing was amazing. And after getting on there and seeing how it worked and realizing the way the directors, writers, actors all collaborated together, it was one of the most actor-friendly shows I've ever been on. And it became my favorite thing to go running up to Vancouver for several days and film, some episodes. And I got to, I obviously got picked up for additional episodes and ended up being on the show for almost 5 years. And I actually ultimately played as many episodes as I did on the original show. So it turned out to be a blessing for me. And as always, I'm a proponent of great drama, great artistry, great acting, and this new Battlestar had it in spades. So I again, The show obviously had some deeper, richer, more complex characters than the original, because 35 years later, studios, networks were open to doing things in a much more kind of more complex, edgy way, because the audience had grown, and because, or maybe the studios realized the audience was actually hungry for something richer and deeper. But anyway, the point is, it turned out to be a show that I was proud to be on, and I was very happy, because the original show, as much as I loved the cast, the mythology, the backstory, I was frustrated as an actor. I just saw so much dramatic potential going to waste, but it was the networks and studios that were afraid to explore it back then. But 35 years later, the Sci-Fi Channel, which surprised me, seemed to give them permission to really go for it. So I was able to come full circle and actually dive into what I wanted to dive into 35 years earlier, and I got to do it through the character of Tom Zarek, which one of my most favorite characters of all time, believe it or not.
Well, so could you recommend 3 sci-fi movies or 3 sci-fi series that you particularly like?
Blade Runner,
Mm-hmm.
Aliens,
Mm-hmm.
Avatar. I love Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible with names, trying to think. Crap, something's on the tip of my tongue.
Or another one would be
And I've always been a huge Star Trek fan. What can I say?
Star Trek.
Yeah, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. And I was a big Star Wars fan. I mean, of the